Jesus' claim to kingship was actually the reason and one of the main reasons that he was crucified. From the very beginning, when the wise men came from the east, if you remember, they came and they asked Herod, they said, where is this baby who was born, King of the Jews? And so from the very beginning of Jesus' story, this kingly line was tied into, that thread was tied into the narrative. And Jesus' main message that he taught was kingdom. It said he came and he taught, repent, for the kingdom is at hand, for the kingdom is here, for the kingdom has arrived. And so the kingdom is among us, as he said in Matthew 3:2, as he said in Luke 17, the kingdom's not over here, the kingdom's not over here, the kingdom is among you. And this is how Jesus taught on the kingdom. When Jerusalem when the priests and the Pharisees brought Jesus before Pilate to be crucified, or when they brought him on trial, the thing that Pilate asked Jesus was this: are you the King of the Jews? Luke 23. All four of the New Testament Gospels have him ask this question of Jesus in these exact words. And in three of them, you see Jesus replying, it is as you say, or what you say is true. When Jesus was crucified, what was the sign that hung over his head? It was said, Jesus the Nazarene, King of the Jews. John 19:20 states that this was written in three different languages, in Hebrew, in Latin, and in Greek. He was the king that the people had been waiting for. He was the deliverer. He was the Messiah, but they missed it and they didn't see him. And because it turned out that he was absolutely not the type of king that the people were looking for. Come and run our political systems. Come and overthrow our oppressors. Come and set our enemies straight. Come and fix all of this and bring us into this place of conquering heroes. We have lived under so many other nations for so long. Surely our king, our Messiah, will come and will overthrow the Romans. And he came, instead of overthrowing, he came to lay down his life. And it made no sense to people, to the point that his declaration that he was King of Kings and Lord of Lords, that he was who they said he was, is what brought him, in so many ways, brought him to the cross. When Jesus arrived on the scene, they thought that the Messiah would be that overthrower and that conqueror for Israel to be restored, and the throne of David to be put back in its rightful place. And it was the correct timing for Jesus or for the Messiah to show up. If you ever read historically of the New Testament times, you'll discover that there were people making claims to being the Messiah, claims to being the king all over the region, because it was the correct time according to the prophecies. When they looked into the Old Testament scriptures and began to understand something that we will look at in Daniel chapter 2, as I told you to turn to that. In Daniel chapter 2, there was a sequence of events that had led them to this place in this moment where there was a heightened sense and awareness that the Messiah was going to come and was going to arrive on the scene, which then caused different people to be saying, come out here, I'm the Messiah, I am performing miracles, I'm doing these things, which then made the religious ruling class of the day have to start investigating all these different messianic claims that were happening. Why were these groups of Pharisees following Jesus around and asking him questions? Because this was a common practice of the day, that people were claiming to be the Messiah. Why? Because the timeline was making sense prophetically for them to arrive on the scene. And so Jesus arrived in the exact time that God had said he would arrive, and yet because he did not arrive as a conquering hero and a political champion and a king that was going to take back a throne, they missed it. But that doesn't mean that the kingdom did not arrive emphatically and still is growing to this day like a mustard seed, like yeast that works its way through the dough. And so we have to understand that. We get to look back and understand this.